What's going on, everybody? It's been a little while. Hope everyone having a nice summer so far. Mine's been a little hellish personally, which is why my uh, availability has been a little hit or miss this off season. But got some availability today, and we're gonna fire off a best ball. So this is my first opportunity to kind of talk with you guys through some 2024 strategy as we prepare for the 2024 season. Just getting a couple things set up, and then we'll be good to go. A couple technical things on my end. And then we'll kick this thing off. I don't have it quite pulled up yet. I'm going to do that here shortly. So, uh, for anybody who's been here before, welcome back. For anybody who's new coming in, I'm happy to take any questions that anybody may have. Again, the live streams have been, well, let's call a spade a spade. I haven't really had the opportunity to do them so far this year. I've put out videos as I can. It's been a busy summer. My full-time job is working in sports, and I'm getting ready for the Olympics, which has been the bane of my existence. So a lot of busy days, a lot of long nights working, like working, that have cut into my availability here. So trying to put videos out as I can. I'll throw out a few more rookie videos over the course of the off season. And we can do vets or rankings or anything of the sort. As we progress through closer to the season. But if you know me, you know I love best ball. It's probably my favorite format to play. Other than Dynasty, it's my favorite format to play fantasy football. So we'll kick one of those things off tonight, so you can see my strategy for that as it unfolds real time. I don't really know, or I'm not going to know my situation until the draft kicks off. So keeps things interesting, right? You guys get to see like an authentic, raw thought process as a draft unfolds. So let me pull up Underdog. While I do that, I figure now is a decent time to just kind of go over some recent pieces of news. I often do that. I do some recent news and notes as it pertains to whatever the most important information is. As far as the most recent, most relevant information. I feel like, well, to be fair, some of the more recent news is days old at this point. But we can talk through that. The big ones are basically contract extensions at this point. Ramondre Stevenson gets a contract with New England. Trevor Lawrence gets a big contract from the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know how I feel about that one, but Jacksonville obviously had a choice whether essentially, maybe franchise tag Lawrence and see where that goes for a year. If they have to, if they use the tag a second time and then go from there. They decided to just go ahead and lock him up and give him, I think, the most guaranteed money, the biggest contract essentially in the NFL. I believed in Lawrence the past couple of seasons, and certainly going into last year, he was a guy that I was targeting in one quarterback drafts. He had a decent stretch, like a decent 3 or 4 game stretch. But other than that, it was pretty much disappointing. Injuries to him, injuries to the team. Christian Kirk was lost for the season late in the year. Zay Jones was in and out of the lineup. Now he's in Arizona. So it was not a great 2023 for Trevor Lawrence. He gets the money nevertheless. and he's not. He's as it currently stands, he's not worth that contract. But Jacksonville decided to make the move regardless, so they stay relevant. He's not awful, but he's not best in the league, which is what the contract pretty much suggests or indicates. That's not the case. Um, so they replace Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones with Gabe Davis. They drafted Brian Thomas in the first round, so he's an intriguing guy to keep an eye out for this year. Christian Kirk will be the wide receiver one. Evan Ingram is a trendy tight end target, and rightfully so. But so this is a lackluster Jaguars offense as of right now. And I really like Travis Etienne at current cost, especially in underdog best ball drafts. If the opportunity presents itself, we can talk about him as well. I certainly like Travis Etienne. He's got an ADP on the other side of 40, closer to 45 even. So I've been taking him in a lot of my drafts. And then Ramondre, speaking of running backs that I'm targeting in drafts this year, Ramondre Stevenson was a guy that I am targeting in best ball and redraft for this season. That was before the contract, and then the Patriots doled out a 4-year, $36 million, $17 million guaranteed, $36 million in total, 4-year deal for their starting running back. I mean, if that doesn't lock him in for a significant role for at least the 2024 season, then I don't know what will. I think he's an excellent value right now. He's being drafted 40, 45 spots lower than he was last year. And Ezekiel Elliott is gone. So excellent target in your best ball drafts, in your redraft leagues. He's no longer likely a buy low in Dynasty just because the contract indicates that the Patriots will be committing to him as a focal point of their offense, whatever that looks like. And you figure he's going to get a lot of looks because it's either going to be Jacoby Brissett or the rookie Drake May. Figure they lean on a running back who just got a ton of money and can catch the ball a little bit. That's pretty much the most recent stuff. So you guys are welcome to ask questions as they come up. Let me go ahead and start sharing underdog. I wonder if I can do. I was hoping I could do like a specific size of the screen. There we go. That's not what I want. Hang on. All right. There we go. A little bit better. I guess is Best Ball Mania not on the main page? It must be on the main NFL page. It must be on the home page. You have to scroll. They had the Puppy 2, which was it's a smaller tournament. That filled relatively quickly. But the Best Ball Mania, the big one, Underdog's largest, their literal quote unquote flagship contest for the duration of the offseason. We'll kick one of these guys off. So again, hopefully this will help maybe answer some questions real time. You guys can see some thought processes as they play out real time as far as what are my, what do I like? What do I not like? I'm going to blow myself up a little bit here just so you guys can actually see me and not all of my tabs. Well, you can ignore the tabs. It's pretty much Sleeper and my, I like to use fantasy points, and then of course the keep trade cut tool, which is a flawed experience, but still something that's worth looking at here and there. Let me close this up a little bit better. Okay. So I'm going to fire this thing off. I was going to give folks an opportunity to join me if they would like. In fact, let me go ahead. I'm going to share my go ahead and share my link to my Discord friends. All right. Now we're good to go. Better late than never. I said I would fire it off at 8. We'll kick things off a little later than that, but that's not a problem. Okay. I think I'm just going to go ahead and set this off. Not anticipating that I timed this up with anybody. It is a $25 entry. So, not everybody's just going to, in the middle of June, want to drop $25 on a tournament, but that's okay. I am here to do that for you. Hopefully give you guys some things to think about as we look ahead to 2024. Best ball, of course, the strategy does differ a little bit compared to redraft. There's much higher premium on drafting wide receivers than it is in redraft leagues, just because wide receiver is a little bit more injury proof. Again, if you're a little bit more unfamiliar with best ball, there's no roster management in season. So the team that you draft is the team that you have. If guys get injured, then that's just the luck of the draw. There's no waiver wires. There's no ads or drops during the season. So you're trying to get through the season with as many healthy bodies as you can. So by nature of the beast, the odds are more likely that those will be wide receivers as opposed to running backs. That's just playing the numbers. Wide receivers fly off the board. Running backs are a little bit more available later in the later rounds, and I'm talking later rounds. You can get an RB2 as late as the 7th or 8th round this year. So zero RB is a very viable strategy. I'm not going to tell you to just automatically do that every single time. Don't pigeonhole yourself into just one specific strategy. Diversify your options, diversify how you approach these drafts if you choose to do them. And I'm always here and happy to answer questions if you do choose to do them. Probably easier to help out when it comes to slow drafts when you have 8 hours to make a pick. Can talk about what maybe the course of action may be based on who's available, where you're drafting, and who, if anybody, you have already added to your squad. But we'll do a 30-second per pick draft here, a nice little fast draft. Rapid fire, rapid thinking is going to be required on my part. So we'll kick this thing off. I'll keep an eye on the chat if anybody has any questions. I'll try to answer it throughout the draft. But otherwise, let's get this going. Oh, wow. This just already kicked off. All right. I have a top 2 pick. This rarely ever happens to me. I feel like I'm either around like the 106 or the 107, or I'm at the very end, somewhere between the 110 and the 112. But I have the 102 for I think the first time. So I'm going to have an opportunity here to draft either Christian McCaffrey or CeeDee Lamb. Those are the consensus top 2 picks. Not a whole lot of thought really needed in this situation. I just mentioned wide receivers are the priority and at a premium in these drafts. But if you have a top 2 pick and you have an opportunity to take Christian McCaffrey, you kind of just have to do it. He's the best running back in the NFL. Speaking of contracts, he got one from the 49ers this offseason. They are clearly still committed to him. He's the best guy at his position in the NFL. with all due respect to Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey is still king of the running back castle. He could go one here. It could be CeeDee Lamb. If the guy who or girl who has the first overall pick goes rogue and I have both of them available to me, I may go ahead and stick to that wide receiver strategy first. I have nothing to think about here, though, because Christian McCaffrey does go 101. I don't think I have a single CeeDee Lamb share yet. He makes sense as the second overall pick, had a phenomenal season last year. He's younger than Tyreek Hill. He's the clear-cut wide receiver one for his team, whereas Tyreek is his team's stud clear-cut wide receiver one, but there's a stud clear-cut wide receiver two in Jalen Waddle, who would be a wide receiver one for most other teams that can also siphon targets away. So CeeDee Lamb takes the slight nod over Tyreek with my second pick. So I will pick again at pick if I can do math, pick 23. So, just a bird's eye view of the guys that are available around that ADP. I would love to get a Devon Achane, like swing for the fences type of running back pick in these best ball drafts where you don't have to predict boom weeks, you don't have to predict bust weeks, and if a guy misses time, you have the opportunities to supplant that production in the form of later picks. So Achane feels like a home run swing at the 2-3 turn. That would be a fun option to take at running back. And then of course you've got guys like Devontae Smith. I like DJ Moore at that spot. Now we're getting a little far down the list. Cooper Kupp, Michael Pittman. Probably not guys you're taking at the 2-3 turn. We'll see who's available though. So it's pretty chalky. It usually is, especially in one quarterback drafts. Bijan goes 105, a smidge higher than maybe he normally does in most other drafts. Jefferson falls to the 106. AJ Brown at 107 over Amon-Ra is certainly, that goes against the grain a little bit, but we're splitting hairs between stud wide receiver options. Amon-Ra is typically drafted a little higher than 108, though. Breece Hall at 109, pretty chalky. Puka Nacua at 110 is pretty chalky. Chris Olave in the first round, that's you don't see that as frequently. You're more likely to see Garrett Wilson, and who is going to fall to the second round at this point now, which is pretty spectacular. It's the 201, so he's essentially a first round pick. But Chris Olave getting a lot of love, getting that 111 selection there. Now, this is, again, Underdog's flagship contest, $25 entries. There's total payouts that add up to $1.5 million. So people are going to be aggressive in these drafts. If you believe that Chris Olave is that guy, which, Michael Thomas is gone. Not that he played. It's not like he played a ton of games last year anyway, but you hit your wagon to Chris Olave. I don't know about a guy that high catching passes from a guy like Derek Carr, especially who seemed to have some love for Rashid Shaheed last year, but Olave's a talent. If you believe in him, you take him. So far, Jahmyr Gibbs looks like that's an outstanding value. Getting him at the 205. Gibbs is going as a late first round pick this year, deservedly so. The Lions have indicated that they want to give him the ball more this year. Don't see any reason why not. He had a league-winning stretch in the middle of the season last year when David Montgomery missed time. They're going to want to throw the ball to him. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a stud. Sam Laporte is a stud, but 10 touchdowns is a lot of touchdowns to duplicate year over year. Gibbs at 17 is great. I like Jonathan Taylor at 19 as well. I think he's going to have a strong season playing next to a healthy Anthony Richardson. But again, these stud running backs, they fall down the board because the priority is you have to start 3 receivers. You can't predict, you can't do anything about injuries in best ball. So drafters tend to favor the wide receivers who are more likely to stay healthy on a case-by-case basis over the running backs. So I'm gonna have my choice of uh Jalen Waddle, Mike Evans. I'm perfectly fine with getting Mike Evans here. Nico Collins, I like his ADP is a little high for me. Tank Dell was basically the team's wide receiver one when he was healthy. I like Nico, but this is so rich, and they added Stephon Diggs. Um, I'm gonna go Mike Evans here, and I'm gonna hope. So I'm gonna start off with two stud wide receivers again, leaning into getting strong wide receivers to hang your hat on, especially because you have to start three of them every single week. I'm going to hope that Achan falls to me here at 26. And he does. And that's exactly where I'm going. This is actually, I'm loving this so far. So now I take my home run swing at running back, a guy that I don't have to predict any down weeks. If he misses time due to injury, I'll supplant that production with other running backs later down the board. But I get a guy who can win you a week based on what we saw last year, any given week that he plays. If this guy can hold up for 12 to 15 touches most weeks, I love that spot for Devon Achane. Nico goes at 24. Devontae Smith goes at 25. Two awesome receivers. Again, I like Nico Collins. If he was going like maybe around here, like these picks coming up, 28, 29, 27-ish, maybe I would like Nico a little bit more. But again, when Tank Dell was healthy last year, he was the team's wide receiver one on a per game basis. And Houston added Stephon Diggs this year. So I think at this point in their respective careers, I trust Nico a little bit more than Diggs. Diggs is older at this point, and he had a drop off in production at the end of the season last year. But that's a rich ADP for a loaded group of wide receivers where we're back to the drawing board as far as how does the Texans wide receiver pecking order shake out. So I prefer Mike Evans over him. I'm happy to take him over Nico Collins, and end up with Achane at the top of the third. CD Evans, Devon Achane. I personally love my start out of the 2-hole in this 12-team best ball draft. Astro, if you're still in here, what's going on? Good to see you. Again, as always, as anybody's coming in to hang out, if anybody's got questions about anything, thoughts about a player, thoughts about strategy this year, dynasty, whatever it is, just let me know. Neighbors goes 27. Derrick Henry at 28. This is relatively chalky. Jalen Hurts is the QB1 off the board over Josh Allen. That's high. This is the person who took A.J. Brown, so he went for the stack. That's another thing that you really want to look out for in best ball, the opportunity to stack, especially good offenses. So if you end up with A.J. Brown, or if you end up with it's harder with Devontae Smith, but if you end up with A.J. Brown, draft Jalen Hurts. If you take Zay Flowers, go get Lamar Jackson. If you end up with Jamar Chase, go out of your way to draft Joe Burrow. I'll tell you right now, I drafted CeeDee Lamb and I drafted Mike Evans. So I may look to punt on quarterback for a little bit and get Dak Prescott and Baker Mayfield. And to that point, maybe I'll go get Chris Godwin if I have an opportunity to. I'll see if I can target Rachaad White at running back for the Bucs. He's a good pass catcher out of the backfield, so I can pair Baker with all of those guys. Maybe my tight end, I go for Jake Ferguson and load up get a Dak CD Ferguson stack. A viable strategy in best ball. Try to siphon your production to offenses that you expect to be good on the back of elite playmakers that you draft early. Nothing out of the ordinary here. DJ Moore, I think that's decent value for him at pick 3-8. I see him regularly go maybe half a round higher than that. Cup, Flowers. I mentioned Zay Flowers as it pertains to targeting Lamar Jackson, but that is a little rich for my blood. I like that spot for Travis Kelce. I do still have him as my tight end one this year over Sam Laporta. I'm just not sure. I like Sam Laporta. I like him a lot, and I'm perfectly fine taking him high, but he scored 10 touchdowns last year, and that's just probably going to be a tough number to duplicate. So I'm up here in 5 picks. This is the range we're looking at. I will say, even though I don't have a stack opportunity, Patrick Mahomes is as cheap as he's been in years, and I do like him in this area. So I may forego, waiting on quarterback. I might not take him at 411, but if he's available for me at pick 50, I may take that plunge. And I was just mentioning a guy. I was just talking about Travis Etienne as a guy that I am a big fan of this year at cost. If he's not available to me, I am actually not 100% sure what I would like to do here. So he goes Lamar. Yeah. So again, you'll see a lot of people hammering wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. But if there's a guy here that I believe in, then I have no choice but to take him. I believe in Travis Etienne this year, especially at this depreciated ADP. I think he should be going higher than this. And I know there's this little blurb: is his workload going to decline? Maybe as a runner, but not as a pass catcher. I like the idea of taking Mahomes here with my next pick and getting an anchor at quarterback. Again, I don't advocate for taking a quarterback this high in redraft, but in best ball, it's not a bad idea to hang your hat on a stud quarterback where you don't have to worry about matchups, which is much easier to play in redraft when waivers is actually a factor. Mahomes is cheaper this year than he's ever been. His group of wide receivers have pass catchers improved this year. They added Hollywood Brown. They drafted Xavier Worthy. Obviously, Travis Kelce is still a stud. I'm going to go ahead and take the anchor in Patrick Mahomes and just keep it moving. I don't super advocate for this in redraft, but when I don't have to worry about playing the matchups as much in best ball and I can just get a stud at a discounted cost, I'm happy to do that with an upgraded receiving core compared to last year. Marquise Brown is in. Xavier Worthy is in. Rashee Rice is going to get slapped with a suspension of some amount of time. Man, big run on tight ends. Again, similar to quarterbacks, you're going to see the higher upper echelon options at tight end go higher in best ball leagues. Same thought process. Waivers are not a thing. You cannot, there's no trendy tight ends that you'll be able to pick up in week 7 or week 8 when it comes to best ball. That's just not an option for you. So you're going to see drafters go out of their way to get a stud quarterback or tight end option earlier in a best ball draft than they would in a standard redraft format. Just going down. I'm 12 picks away. This is the range I'm looking in. So I could stack Mahomes with Rashee Rice, and that is probably a smart play if he is available to me. Yes, Rice is not going to play for, I would probably like a 6-game suspension is what we're looking at if I had to guess. So you take your lumps with a guy like that for the first portion of the season. But I did already draft a couple of anchors at wide receiver between CD and Mike Evans. So those guys would be able to get me through until Rice is available whenever his suspension ends. And let's not make any, let's not mince words here. He's going to get suspended for some amount of time. But with Mahomes, he makes a little bit more sense to grab. And then you just kind of ideally hope for you can weather that storm until he returns. So my wide receiver 3 is going to look and feel maybe a little murky because I did opt for Mahomes and 2 running backs through my first 5 picks. So I'm going to have to be aggressive, grabbing depth at wide receiver, which likely means passing on some interesting options at running back. So if Rachaad White, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, I have 5 picks from here. So ideally, at least 1 or 2 of these guys get drafted. Dallas Goedert at pick 66 is a reach and a half. I don't like that one bit. I'm really hoping that some of these guys, some of these running backs get drafted here. It would feel frustrating to have to pass up on one of these guys. But at this point, I have to because I have 2 starting running backs. It's come to this point where you need to hammer wide receiver. You start 3 of them in best ball, and there's no matchups to play. There's no roster management. There's no waivers in best ball. So you need good options at wide receiver, having to start 3 of them every single week. So I would love it if this guy took Rachaad White. I know I was saying earlier, maybe like a full buck stack, but things changed a little bit. Yeah. So I have to continue to take wide receiver. I hate that I have to pass on Rachaad White here. And maybe maybe I'll roll the dice a little bit and see if he is available to me here after I do this, but I think I should take Rice. I know that he's got a suspension coming, but I can stack him with Mahomes. I'll grab, obviously, 4, 5, honestly, more wide receivers over the course of the rest of this draft. It's an 18-round draft. It's a good value for Rachaad White. I just didn't feel like I could take him there. I felt like I needed to grab. I feel like I need to grab 2 wide receivers here. I have Devon Achane. I have Travis Etienne. I'll get a couple of depth running backs later, but I spent premium capital on 2 running backs. I now need to focus on wide receiver. You have to fill out those spots. So I like all of these guys. I really do. Justin Herbert has talked up Ladd McConkey. That might be where I go here just because it's a wide open opportunity for targets. Deontay Johnson has always been my guy, but now he's catching passes in a worse offense. I like Christian Watson. I will say that. I do like Christian Watson quite a bit. But things are a smidge more convoluted in Green Bay as far as the pecking order. When Christian Watson was on the field last year, he was the team's wide receiver 1. It wasn't Jaden Reed. When Christian Watson was healthy, Watson was the team's wide receiver 1. So I think that's a good spot for him. I'm rolling the dice a little bit, going with a rookie over guys like Deontay and Watson. But Justin Herbert has praised Ladd McConkey so far throughout the offseason program. Keenan Allen is gone. Mike Williams is gone. Austin Eckler is gone. The pass catching options in this group are thin. Obviously, the expectation is the Chargers are going to run the ball and then run some more. But I mean, someone has to get 120 targets in this offense, whether it's Josh Palmer. I think Ladd is a good bet to be a decent PPR guy. I draft him as my wide receiver 4. He'll have to be on that wide receiver 3 edge threshold as long as Rashee Rice is suspended. But once Rice comes back, now I've got like a decent little tandem there to help fill the wide receiver 3 spot with what I hope is some amount of consistency. So leaving decent running back options on the board again, but when you in best ball, when you use premium capital on running backs, which I did, I took Achane at the top of the third round. I took Travis Etienne at the bottom of the fourth round. At that point, it's kind of like, okay, I have to hang my hat on those guys. I have to believe that those are my guys that are going to carry me through most weeks, and then I'll fill out my RB3, 4, and 5. I'm 14 picks away, but in this range where there are just more running back options that are a little bit more appealing than the wide receiver options. So that's just kind of how the draft dictates things. Target the wide receivers first, get the running backs later. And you could go against the grain. That's fine. But when you don't have waivers available to you on a per situation basis, the wide receivers are going to stay healthier than the running backs, generally speaking. So you have to target those. You have to target those wideouts. I'm 11 picks away. I don't like spending this much premium capital on quarterbacks, but if I can get Dak and stack him with CD, I will do that. But I didn't want to force that situation. So I wasn't going to take Dak with the, whatever, the 74th pick is what I had. I'm just not going to do that. A lot of tight ends going off the board early, so that is just going to be a punt situation for me. Not going to be drafting any outside of the top or before 100 picks into the draft. So, let's go down the board here. Maybe a Dalton Schultz, maybe a Freiermuth, a Cole Kmet. I'm a little hesitant. At first I was a little more bullish on TJ Hawkinson at a depreciated cost, but he tore his ACL late in the season and he also tore his LCL. So complicated injury that he's going to have to work his way back from. He's not going to be ready for the start of the season. And now it's a rookie quarterback, or it's either Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy. You're hoping for Hawkinson to start contributing maybe by like week 8 or so. I'm not as excited about him at his depreciated cost as I was maybe at the start of the offseason or when or after the draft when I started to fire off a few best balls. I will take Dak here if he is available to me, again, because I have CD Lamb. I already have Mahomes, but I'll grab Dak. Those will be my quarterbacks, assuming these two folks in front of me don't take him. Jane Daniels, wow. Okay, so I would love to get like Jamison Williams right here and then also take like a Jonathan Brooks, but I have CD. So let's go ahead and lock in Dak. And then I will take Jamison Williams here. I don't think I'm going to have any shares of Curtis Samuel. I know that he could be like just the main guy in Buffalo. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, both gone. But that's an awful lot of projecting for his ADP to be that high. And that guy ends up with the two guys I most like in this spot. All right. I'm going to take a shot on Zamir White here because I don't have a lot of shares of him. And, hey, opportunity has come a knocking for Zamir White. They didn't add out the, they added Dylan Lowby in the draft. The Raiders did. They didn't, they signed Alexander Madison in free agency. It looks like Zamir White is going to be their guy. I also like Zach Moss in this spot. I think I've taken him a couple of times. I've taken very little of Zamir White. So I'm just diversifying my bonds, diversifying the assets here. Averaged over 4 yards a carry with limited opportunities last year. Now he gets an opportunity to be the dude. If you listen to the coach speak this year, they've talked up Zamir White. When I think it's Cadillac Williams is the Raiders running back coach, the old Bucks running back. I think he was a first round pick way back in the day before teams started to catch up to trends as far as when and where it makes sense to draft running backs. He's their running back coach. He spoke highly of Zamir White, and when had the opportunity to talk about Alexander Madison, he basically was just like, "Yeah, he's a depth guy. He's a he's a change of pace guy." So Zamir White is shaping up to be the Raiders dude. Is he good? I don't know. He didn't catch the ball that much. So obviously that is, the reason that he's going this low, there's some uncertain, he's an unknown and he doesn't catch the ball much based on his track record, but he's going to get the ball. He should get 270-ish, 280 touches as long as he stays healthy. So giddy up. We keep it moving. I was feeling great about the start of this team. I will tell you, I feel a little less good about it, and I think that it's directly correlated to my lack of wide receiver depth. For some reason, I just, I feel better about my best ball teams when I feel like I can run a couple of wide receiver ones and a strong wide receiver two out there every week. That's not the case with this group, especially with Rashee Rice facing what is likely I'm just going to assume it's around a 6-game suspension. And I spent some premium capital on quarterback, which I don't always do, and I don't always like to do, but I like Mahomes at cost this year. And then I drafted CD second overall, so I felt like it made a lot of sense to just grab Dak. But I get a guy in Achane that I don't have a lot of shares of. I got a guy in Zamir White I don't have a lot of shares of. I hadn't had the opportunity to draft CD yet to this point, so I got some new different pieces to work with in this specific draft. I'm 6 picks away. Uh, Shit, I might just grab Brandon Cooks and go full Cowboys stack. There's some interesting wide receivers I'd like to take here. Could take a flyer on some of these names. Dontavian Wicks is an interesting guy. Josh Downs is an interesting guy. I had been saying for years that Jerry Jeudy was one of my guys. Doesn't feel like the case anymore. But who knows? Maybe if Deshaun Watson can stay healthy, if there's some continuity and stability at quarterback, maybe a fresh start for Jerry Jeudy is what's best. So who knows? I'm 5 picks away. This guy is making some interesting picks. I'll just leave it at that. Jerome Ford is another running back that I like quite a bit. I am very leery about Nick Chubb and what, if anything, he can offer this year. So the fact that Jerome Ford can be had 100+ picks into a draft is very enticing. All right. So I have Dak. So I'm just gonna grab Brandon Cooks again. You wanna identify and look for opportunities to stack in best ball, even more so than in redraft. looking down the list at who will be available to me later. There are some interesting running backs that will be available to me in a bit. The running backs are a little bit more interesting down there. Yeah, I'm going to continue to go against the grain. I don't think Javonte Williams has been one of my dudes since he was drafted, and I don't think I have a single share of him this year. Let's get weird and let's change that. His ADP is 109. I'm getting him at 122. I think that's a nice discount. And so now I have four decent options at running back. I should probably stop for a bit unless there's an insane value available to me in the next 20 picks. I should probably stop for a bit, grab a couple more wide receivers. If I can finally get a tight end, that will be an ideal opportunity, an ideal option to me. I'm not taking another quarterback no matter what happens. I took Mahomes in the 5th round and I took Dak within the top 100. That's two picks within inside the top 100 on quarterback. I'm expecting Mahomes to be that dude. I drafted CeeDee Lamb, so I felt like it would made sense to just go ahead and get Dak. No need to spend on a QB3. I'm rocking with those two guys at quarterback. It doesn't matter who is available to me for the rest of the draft. I will be passing over. Like I have Lad McConkey. If Justin Herbert falls in the next 15 picks, he probably won't. But if he does, I'm not doing it. I'm not spending that much money on quarterback. That just doesn't make sense from a resource allocation perspective. It's going to be primarily wide receiver, and I'm going to be I'm bargain hunting for tight end at this point. I'm up in 13 picks. I like Dontavion Wicks. I have to look at this guy's team. I'm sorry. I mean, I respect going out and just getting your guys. Like I can appreciate somebody who has complete disregard for ADP and just goes and get their guys. This is outrageous. Dallas Goedert. It defaulted. A pick was made, so it defaulted back to my team. Dallas Goedert has an ADP of 115, and you took him 66 overall. I don't mind Dallas Goedert at cost. I liked him last year, and now he's 40 picks cheaper. So, I see the value, but damn, that's awfully high. I like seeing these quarterbacks taken off the board. I have no intention of taking another one, so that's just going to push a player or two down for me that I would actually prefer to have. What's up, Crumply Heads? Good to see you, man. Yeah, hoping to have a few more live streams over the course of the summer. It's been a rough summer for me, admittedly. A busy one with work, so I have not been able to do this as much as I would like to. And there's going to be a stretch in July where I am, or at the end of July or to mid-August ish, over the course of the Olympic Games, where I am going to be unavailable for the most part. I could probably throw out a short here and there, but that's going to be the extent of what I can do. It's been a busy summer. My availability is not is where I would like it to be, but going to continue to try to pump out videos. I will live stream between now and the end of July as much as I can, just to be able to connect with you guys. I will be making some changes to my membership levels and policies and all of that stuff. So I'll make sure I get that done. And with a chance to, give people an opportunity if they would like, because I've been asked about will there be face mask leagues this year. I got to get on top of that if that's gonna happen. So there will be some changes coming to the membership levels. So I got to make sure I take care of that. But I am around. Unfortunately, not as much as I'd like to be this summer. It's been a rough one, but uh, I will be here a little bit more frequently, hopefully, at least for the next month. And then I have to take my hiatus and go to Connecticut for 3 weeks worth of work. Well, I like these wide receiver options that are going to be available here to me. I like Downs. I like Dotson. I do like Xavier Legette. I think he's better than. I mean, outside of the first half of Adam Thielen last year, Xavier Legette is better than anything else they had last year. So, interesting option. I'm gonna pass on Freiermuth. Actually, I don't have to pass on Freiermuth because he's just not available to me. What I am gonna do is continue to just punt on tight end, and I'm gonna take 2, probably 3 at just that very end of the draft, and just hope for the best. Uh, I'll go Josh Downs. I like Josh Downs. I like Josh Downs quite a bit. And I don't really have much analysis there. I just think he's a good player. I know they added Adonai Mitchell in the second round, but Downs had a nice season for them last year, mostly playing with, Gardner Minshew. So, I mean, Anthony Richardson is going to elevate this offense. Happy to take Downs. Happy to take, well, I would love to get more shares of Marshawn Lloyd. I just feel like I continue to find myself in situations where I can't do it. Okay. There's some interesting wide receivers that I am going to take Marshawn Lloyd. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to mess around and get a little weird. I don't have any shares of him. I'm very intrigued by his upside. I think there are some intriguing options at wide receiver that will be available to me at my next pick. Demario Douglas has been getting rave reviews in Patriots camp. A lot of people seem to like Troy Franklin, the Broncos rookie wide receiver. I like Marvin Mims on a personal level, and then there's some interesting tight ends down here where I can go kind of bargain shopping. But also, I'm up against it. I really need to get a friggin' tight end. I just haven't liked the situation yet to go get one. So Mahomes and Dak, I'm not getting another quarterback no matter where the chips fall. I spent premium capital on quarterbacks. Mahomes I like at his cost this year, and Dak I just so happened to get because I drafted CD with the top 2 pick. So I decided to stack it up. I will not be taking another quarterback. Those are the guys I'm hanging my hat on this year. HN, ETN, Zamir White, Javonte Williams, Marshawn Lloyd. I do like that collection of backs quite a bit. I may be relying on that group more than other entries I've done to fill out my flex because my wide receivers are a little thin after the first couple of options. But hey, just because the general strategy tells you to draft wide receivers early and often, while I do subscribe to that, it doesn't mean it's going to just automatically work out. CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Rashee Rice stacked with Mahomes, Ladd McConkey, Brandon Cooks, Josh Downs. CD and Cooks are obviously stacked with Dak stacks, if you will. Decent group of wide receivers, not the strongest collection of wide receivers I've put together in my best ball entries, but CD is has a top three upside, probably top 5 or 6 floor at wide receiver. Mike Evans, all he does is put up 1,000-yard, 10 touchdown seasons. Rashee Rice, Gonna get hit with a suspension, so I'm gonna have to weather that storm. I need to draft at least one more wide receiver. And I'm not opposed to taking two more wide receivers, even though I already have six. So I will need Lab McConkey, I will need Brandon Cooks, and I will need Josh Downs to pick up the slack in Rashee Rice's absence. And then I don't have a tight end yet. So I will be drafting two, possibly three bargain bin options here coming up as we approach the end of this draft. But I really need to make this. I really need to make this happen. I'm running out of time to draft a tight end. Hunter Henry's a decent option. Jonnu Smith is gone. He moves on to, or Jonnu Smith has been. Who was the tight end that they had last year that other than Hunter Henry? They had another guy. It was Mike Gesicki. Right, that's right, Mike Gesicki. He moves on to Cincinnati. So Hunter Henry presumably is, the lone wolf at tight end for the first time since he was a San Diego Charger. Was he in LA when they were the Chargers? It doesn't matter. Let's see if I can get Hunter Henry here. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind Hunter Henry. I also wouldn't mind Demario Davis. Again, he has been some rave reviews have been coming out of Patriots camp for him. Ben Sinnott, that's the Washington Commanders tight end. I just don't want to draft him this year because they added Zach Ertz. And I know that Zach Ertz is at the end. Yeah, I'm going to grab Hunter Henry here because I desperately need a tight end. And now he's the dude. No Jonnu Smith from 2 years ago. No Mike Gesicki from last year. I could double dip at tight end here, but I don't think I need to. Kamani Vidal is another interesting name at running back. I don't know if I want to take a sixth running back just because I've plunged so much third round pick on Achane, fourth round pick on ETN, and then have filled out with with three more picks inside the top 150, Zamir White, Javonte, Marshawn Lloyd. And I don't have to worry about it. I'm going to grab Demario Douglas because I think he's this team's wide receiver one. People are interested in Jalen Polk. I think he was their fourth round pick. He's interesting, but I mean, will he become the team's wide receiver one year one as a fourth round pick? I guess crazier things have happened, but that's a lot to ask of a day three rookie. Catching passes from Jacoby Brissett or Drake May. So I'll take Demario Douglas. The vibes have been good on him thus far. So still only one tight end. I'm officially going to grab. I'll grab two. Certainly one more and possibly two more tight ends. Just some bargain shopping. Maybe a Jelani Woods. Speaking of good vibes, Jelani Woods missed the entire season last year for the Colts. Has been impressing in OTAs, spring practices. Take it with a grain of salt if you would like to, but he is listed at the top of the Colts depth chart. It's not Mo Alley Cox. It's not oh my God, who are the other guys that they have there? Jelani Woods is at the top of the depth chart over all of those guys. It's so hard to remember their names because they've got like 40 of them. Colts. Kylan Granson is the other guy I was thinking of. Woods is on the top of the depth chart over him. So he's an interesting bargain option at tight end. Ty Conklin is an interesting bargain option at tight end. The Jets didn't do anything in the draft or free agency really to address tight end. He was a big winner of the offseason, and Aaron Rodgers likes throwing it to the tight end. So after Garrett Wilson, I mean, the pecking order is wide open. They added Mike Williams in free agency. We'll see if he can stay healthy for any duration of the season. I like Ty Conklin quite a bit. There he goes. I'm not going to get him in this draft, but I've taken plenty of shares of him thus far in my best ball entries. If you're going bargain shopping at tight end, Ty Conklin is an interesting guy to keep an eye on. Isaiah Likely, would love to grab that guy if he's available. Interesting best ball name. I just don't think even with a healthy Mark Andrews, they can keep him off the field. They have to play him. He has proven to be too good to leave on the sideline. Jonnu Smith is interesting, but I mean, that offense just siphons targets to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They just funnel them to those two guys. Woods is a guy that's interesting. Jawan Johnson was a guy who was interesting, but now he needs foot surgery. Sounds like he's going to miss all of training camp. You know, you call it an overreaction if you want. It's a long season, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I get leery of guys who are already coming into the season dealing with something, and he has to actually have surgery. I was interested in Jawan Johnson, but now I'm not. Jatavian Sanders. There have been recent reports that Ian Thomas looks great in Panthers camp, so that feels kind of murky. Bryce Young is still very much in a prove it phase, and I think he will be a lot better this year than he was last year. He doesn't even have to be good to be better than last year. He just has to be average. Hell, he could be below average and he'll be better than last year. So I'll leave that tight end situation alone. This is another guy I like bargain shopping for tight end, Dawson Knox. I mean, as your last pick in the draft, all he has to do is catch in a best ball draft. All Dawson Knox has to do on the season is catch like 4 touchdowns and he's going to pay off. No Stephon Diggs, no Gabe Davis. They added Keon Coleman in the draft. They've got Khalil Shakir. They added Curtis Samuel. But I mean, I would think there's a lot of work that goes through the tight ends in this offense. Dawson Knox has proven to be a red zone threat before. He's going to have to be even more now with the starting wide receivers from last year gone. There's plenty of bargain options at tight end that I like. That make me feel okay punting the position. So I'm going to hope that I get Isaiah Likely here. I'm very happy that I got Demario Douglas and grabbed that 7th wide receiver because the wide receiver stuff has dried up. And yep, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get Isaiah Likely, a guy that don't have to think about or worry about over a week to week basis. Just like when he catches a touchdown, I'm gonna benefit, and that's all that I care about. You guys know this. Anybody who's played fantasy football for more than a couple of years, tight ends live and die by touchdowns. If you're not a stud, if you're not Travis Kelce, if you're not Mark Andrews, we'll see if Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid have some type of consistency that elevate them to that level. But if you're not those guys, you live and die by touchdowns. So you grab a few guys at the end of your draft. They catch a touchdown every 3 or 4 weeks. That's all you need. Let's see. Chuba Hubbard has absolutely plummeted. I don't know if Sometimes I just really like value. I know he's facing tough snap competition, but it's not from Miles Sanders. It's from Jonathan Brooks. I'll take a flyer on a guy who could be an RB2 here and there with a last pick in the draft. Second to last pick in the draft. So my final pick will be a tight end, especially since I took 2 guys with week 14 buys. So I don't want to I want to set myself up so I'm in theory never taking a 0. So I will be taking a tight end. Can't take Jelani Woods. He's got a bye week of week 14 as well. I could take Dawson Knox. Yeah, one of these guys. Colby Parkinson, at first I was like, oh, the Rams signed him, but he's never proven to be a pass-catching threat. But, I mean, Tyler Higbee ripped up his knee in the wild card loss to the Lions last year, so he's not going to be ready for at least the start of the season. Plus, he's 34 years old, so... and if you remember that injury, it was a gnarly one. Obviously, you hope he's okay and bounces back and is able to, do things on his own terms as his career kind of winds down. But I mean, that was a rough injury that he suffered late in the season, literally in the postseason. Um, so Colby Parkinson, they just that's the guy that they signed. They didn't really add anybody else. So either one of these dudes would do well as a tight end 3. Tucker Kraft was interesting for me, but I think he picked up an injury. He did. He's out until training camp. Arm is in a sling. See, so like, could he be fine? Could that be absolutely nothing? Yeah, maybe. But until I get until we get a positive update on Tucker Kraft, I'll just go out of my way to take Luke Musgrave if the chips fall that way. We are coming up to the end of this best ball. So if anybody has any questions or wants me to go over anything specifically, what was I thinking in this area? What was, how do I feel about this player? Anything specific? Fire away any specific questions. It doesn't even have to be about this draft in particular. It can be about your own situation, your own thoughts or feelings about any one given player. I can't believe Tyrone Tracy is still on the board, but I have 6 running backs. There's just no conceivable way that I can take a 7th running back. That's just a bad use of resources because you only start 2 with a maximum of 3. The only reason I ended up with a 6th running back is because Chuba Hubbard fell 30 spots below ADP. I am happy to take either Colby Parkinson or Dawson Knox here. I have a lot of Dawson Knox shares, so perhaps I will dip into Parkinson here just to, again, diversify, make this team a little different from what most of my teams look like. And that'll be that. There goes Tyrone Tracy. I think that's excellent value for that guy. Another running back depth option to keep an eye on. Sure, I'll take a Colby Parkinson. If he catches 3 or 4 touchdowns, that's pretty much all I need. Okay. They're not going to take me right to the tournament that I just finished. I got to go find it. I've done 4 of these now officially. Not that one. It's not that one. Damn, I have a lot of Mahomes. I don't even remember drafting that one. So it's this one. Let's view this full draft just for fun. Or can I look at the projections? I don't like spending too much time looking at projections because it means nothing. But it's fun to see how you stack up compared to how everybody else did. Here we go. Well, here's the draft anyway. So from the 2 hole, I took CeeDee Lamb 2nd overall. Followed it up with Mike Evans and Devon Achane right around the 2-3 turn. Travis Etienne goes, I take him, and then Patrick Mahomes to round out my top 5 picks. I would not have minded if, a guy like an Amari Cooper or Christian Kirk had fallen to me where I took ETN, but that is not how things played out. So I just played the board as I felt made the most sense. I get two guys that should be they should easily be top 15 running backs between HN and ETN if they're both healthy. So, you know, sometimes things go you have it in your head in these drafts like, oh, I'm going to hammer wide receiver early, but if talent is there that you believe in at other positions, then just take the talent. At the end of the day, don't subscribe to just one strategy. Mahomes, uh, off the board, I got as the QB5 in the 5th round. He's regularly the QB3 or 4 drafted, and he's typically going a round higher than I got him. I get him in the 5th round. His weapons are better this year. Marquise Brown, Xavier Worthy, whenever Rashee Rice comes back, and then obviously Travis Kelce is still a stud. I like Mahomes' situation much more than I liked his situation last year. So I don't mind grabbing him in the 5th round. I end up stacking Rashee Rice with him. I get Lab McConkey in the 7th round. I took him over. That's one that I might kick myself on a little bit. I took him over Deontay Johnson. I took him over Christian Watson. Both guys I like quite a bit this year. I've always been a Deontay guy. Just because he's in what looks to be a worse situation in Carolina doesn't mean he's not going to get a bunch of targets. And Christian Watson is a guy that at cost I am quite high on, especially in best ball. You don't have to predict his boom or bust weeks. Those spike weeks should be pretty strong for Christian Watson. We'll see what happens, though. Lab McConkey should be a bit of a PPR machine for the Chargers without Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I grabbed Dak. Again, I don't always grab 2 quarterbacks this high, but I had CeeDee Lamb. Stacking is a thing that you often find yourself wanting to go out of your way to do in best ball. So drafting CeeDee, I immediately had in the back of my head, keep an eye on Dak, see where Dak is, grab him if you don't have to go out of your way to do it. So I did. Zamir White fell about 10 picks below his ADP. I don't have too many shares of him, and he's going to be, it appears, the guy for the Raiders. So he may not catch the ball a lot, and quite frankly, the jury's out on if he's actually good. But I mean, if he's healthy, then 250 touches or 250 touches, no matter how you slice it. Again, sticking with the stacking theory, I grabbed Brandon Cooks. I don't have any shares of Javonte Williams, believe it or not. Now he's a year removed from excuse me. Something like flew into my mouth. Javonte was a guy that a lot of people I think were fading last year because he was less than a year removed from the ACL injury. Now he's a year removed from that. So he should be 100% now. This season should be the closest we see to whether or not Javonte Williams can recapture any type of, form as a still young running back. So getting him 10 to 12 spots below ADP, that felt good. Josh Downs for some depth at wide receiver. Marshawn Lloyd as an intriguing upside option at running back. And then, I filled it out with my depth. I punted on tight end, Hunter Henry, Isaiah Likely, Colby Parkinson, 3 tight ends that I grab all outside the top 150, 167 to be exact is the first pick I used a tight end on. So I punted. Again, if you don't get an anchor, if you don't get a stud at tight end, one of these top guys up here, Kelce, Kittle, Mark Andrews, Trey McBride, Laporta, Kincaid, if you don't get one of those names, tight ends live and die by touchdowns. Skip all these dudes in the middle rounds. That includes TJ Hawkinson, he suffered an ACL and an LCL injury late in the season. He could be viable in week 8. He could be a guy that we have to wait on until 2025, especially now working with some combination of Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy instead of Kirk Cousins. So I'm likely to skip all these dudes and just punt on the position. Demario Douglas, positive vibes so far this offseason out of Patriots camp. Isaiah Likely, a guy that I think is too talented for the Ravens to leave off the field, even with a healthy Mark Andrews. Chuba, whatever. I wasn't planning on doing that, but he fell 30 picks below ADP. So we keep it moving, grab him, and just take some decent depth. And then I ended it with Colby Parkinson, who the Rams signed. Who the hell knows if Tyler Higbee's in the same boat as TJ Hawkinson. Like, but even worse because he's several years older than TJ Hawkinson. They both suffered nasty knee injuries to end the season. There's no chance that either one of them are ready week one. If by some miracle they are, they're going to be a shell of themselves. They're not going to be able to contribute at the level that you expect that those guys are able to bring when healthy. So screw it. Colby Parkinson, come on down. Let's see what you can do. Never scored more than 50 fantasy points in a season, but as the last pick in the draft, all I need is to hit for him to do is catch 4 touchdowns over the course of the season, and that pick will have paid off. So that's pretty much it. That is all she wrote for this draft. Not a ton of engagement today. That's okay. That's probably more on me. I have not been consistent with live streams this offseason so far. It's been an annoyingly busy summer for me. And I know that sounds like an excuse. But that's like that's just the truth. I'm working a lot of late nights. That takes me away from being able to do this and hang out with you guys. So I'm gonna try to mix in as many as I can before I have to go on like a work hiatus at the end of July. So hopefully I can fire off a few more here in the coming days and weeks, and we can talk strategy and we can just talk general shop on things. Where my feelings are on certain guys, where your feelings may be on certain players. We can get into that, and then of course I still fully intend to have our full dosage of streams once we are officially in season. And then I guess the last thing will be I am gonna change things up a little bit with the memberships. Tweak those a little bit. Those offerings are a little dated at this point from the previous from how this channel was previously established and set up. The dynamic is different now. Some of you are familiar with that. For anybody who is new, this is your first experience. The membership situation is a little dated, so I'm going to go in and tweak that here before the season starts. We'll get that situated and squared away. And then, of course, I'll continue to fire off some rookie videos as I can. Again, it's been busy at work getting ready for the Summer Olympics, which is what my primary job is. That's how I pay the bills. So hopefully you guys can understand that. That's what's taking me away from being able to do this a little bit more frequently this year compared to years past. So gonna fire off a few more live streams here between now and the end of July, and then I'm gonna have to wait until mid-August or so to pick them back up. But they will be picked back up, rest assured. So I'll get the videos out as I can. That'll be a little bit easier for me to do. Because I often find myself still working at this time this offseason, and that wasn't the case in previous years. The job title changes, the responsibility changes, and then all of a sudden the things you actually want to do with your free time go by the wayside. But we'll make sure we'll fix that before the season actually starts. So that's it for this draft. Probably not going to fire off another one tonight. The $25 entries are, you got to shell a little bit out for those. But I can continue to do these if they are helpful. If it's helpful to hear strategy as it unfolds real time, I'm happy to continue to do that. If not, I'm happy to just answer questions in general about certain players, certain situations, whether it's ADP, whether it pertains to a dynasty team, a redraft team, a best ball team, because the strategy does change for each one. People may think this, best ball and redraft, the strategy is similar. It's not. It really isn't. It's closer than, say Dynasty, obviously, when you factor in way more variables. Uh, but best ball, the strategy is a little different than redraft. You want to target a quarterback or a tight end, if not both, higher than you would in redraft. Wide receiver in general is more of a priority. It's easier to fill running back in best ball than it is in redraft. Generally speaking, in redraft leagues, people still prioritize running backs. It's not necessarily the case in best ball. So if you play best ball, I'm happy to talk shop about that. If you're thinking about playing best ball and you're looking to get started, please feel free to use me as a resource. You can comment on any videos if you have questions. If that's your easiest way to get in touch with me, I have a Discord channel. You could utilize that as well. If you have questions, you can crowdsource there from a group of folks who are absolutely willing to help out as well. Whether you are new to best ball or it's something that you do kind of regularly, we can absolutely talk shop there. If there is nothing else, I guess that will be it for me for the rest of this evening. Appreciate anybody who came in and hung out over the course of this. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully it's good to hear different strategies or just, seeing how things and events unfold real time and giving a chance to see what my thoughts are as it happens and whether you can apply those thoughts. Great. If you're thinking to yourself, I don't like what he did there, I would do something differently. Great. Maybe that sheds some light on like, okay, this is what I know I want to do when the time comes in this specific situation. So hopefully it's helpful in that regard. But I think that'll do it for me for this evening. If there are no other questions, I know the other thing is Wednesday streams during the off season are typically not days that I do it. So my cadence is all over the place this summer. So, I appreciate anybody who has stuck with me through this. Not going anywhere, just a little bit more hectic than in previous off seasons. Keep it locked in. I'll push out a rookie video here and there as I can. I'll fire off a more typical live stream as I can. We can use that for general AMA or as training camp gets closer, if there are specific talking points, specific pieces of news, tidbits, whatever have you to talk about, to get through. We'll be sure to get through all of that as we move closer and closer to the 2024 season. Everybody have a great night, and I will see you as I see you. And I hope that I can commit to more than just, a fleeting, hopeful opportunity. But I'm still here for anybody who has questions. The Discord is open. And then, of course, if you have questions about anything, you can always comment on any video, whatever it is, and I'll get to it as I can. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll try to fire off another one before the end of the week. So we'll see. Keep it locked. I'll try to fire all those updates off in Discord as well. If that's a helpful thing for updates.